Hi everyone, and welcome to this tutorial on crypto trading security. Today we're going to look at why security is so important, particularly in the crypto space. We're going to take a look at the principle of layered security, and then we're going to go through the various steps of setting up a secure trading environment. Lastly, we're going to recap what we've achieved. So let's get started. Why security is so important? That is a really good question, especially when you're already used to online banking for so many years. Crypto exchanges are largely anonymous platforms and they're not regulated. So there's no central authority that can regulate or step in if something goes wrong. Trading on these exchanges is not for the faint-hearted because of these security implications. And if you do feel this is too much for you, it probably is, and you may want to consider alternative wealth growth strategies. That said, you're obviously invited to continue watching this video. Now let's take a look at the principle of layered security. Essentially what this means is that you're making it more difficult for an attacker to get to your valuables by creating certain perimeters of access. So if you think of your house, for example, you would have a fence, and then maybe you would have a video camera, and then you would have thermal sensors in your apartment or your house. And lastly, you would have a vault or a safe with a password lock. So in order for a perpetrator to access your valuables, they will have to overcome a number of barriers. So according to Wikipedia, layered security, also known as layered defense, describes the practice of combining multiple mitigating security controls to protect resources and data. Now, the downside is that layers of security don't necessarily mean a reduced surface of attack, particularly because the online world is not comparable to a house with a fence, although many security firms make you believe that. If somebody controls your PC, for example, chances are they can access your email. And if somebody hacked your phone, they may have access to your email and your two-factor authentication app that we're going to talk about a bit later. And even worse, if somebody hacked into your Binance account, they may be able to change your email details, hence making that whole configuration with security of email obsolete. So the point is, you need to use all the layers in combination with each other for this to work. Let's see how we can set this up. Now, if you're using a Windows PC or a Mac, the first thing you should do, if you don't already have it, is download a free antivirus software and do a full scan of your PC. There are numerous free antivirus softwares out there, Avast, AVG, Avira, just to name a few, and you should not just rely on the solutions that come with your operating system like Windows Defender. Even if you're on a Mac, there are viruses for Macs, so please make sure you download an antivirus software. If you're using Linux, there is no need for antivirus. If you already own or use a VPN, a virtual private network, activate it. Otherwise, I recommend you try out private internet access. I've linked it below in the comments. Private internet access essentially encrypts your connection to the internet and adds a small layer of security to make your IP address, which is basically your address of your user account on the internet, makes it obscured. For Windows users, I suggest you download a software called Patch My PC Home Updater. This is a very handy little tool, and it's free, which updates your most popular Windows apps. I think right now they support up to 300 programs. So if you have an outdated version of a VLC player, for example, this software will update that automatically and in the background. This is very handy because often outdated software is the key to allowing hackers to access your computer. Now, if you're using a Windows PC and your Microsoft account is linked to your PC, I suggest you change your password and or your login PIN, and maybe you set yourself a reminder to do this every 3 months or so. Next, we're going to create a new email address, and we recommend a large email provider such as Gmail or Outlook. Choose an ambiguous email address, something that doesn't sound like it's meant to be an online banking or a Binance crypto trading email address. So something like Mark123456 as opposed to my secret Binance email. I guess you get the point. Security by obscurity is the motto here. Next, define a recovery email address and/or a cell phone number for password recovery, ideally with the primary cell phone that you use every day, and obviously with your primary email address. On your phone or tablet, check that you have the latest operating system installed and all the apps are updated, either through the iOS App Store or the Android Play Store. Secure your phone or tablet with a numeric PIN as opposed to using the Face ID or swipe gestures, which are far less secure. Don't use birthdays or any other number that is linked to your personal information. Use a number that only you would know and remember. And this pretty much goes for every PIN you use in life. Next, download a two-factor authentication app to your smartphone or tablet. Two most popular ones are Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. And I've put the icons on the right, as some app stores will show you results of other third parties that pretend to be Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. So be alert. And try to avoid other third-party authenticators unless you're sure you can trust them. Next, set up two-step verification for your email address. And for Gmail and Outlook, I'm going to post the links below as well. Essentially, this will require you to insert a PIN that appears on your smartphone every time you access this email address. Now, this may sound like a huge hassle, but technically, given you're only using this email address for your Binance trading account, you will not receive a lot of email and you won't have to access it very often. And if you do, you can be really sure that only you can access this. Next, check out whether you can log off and log back into that newly created email address using the two-factor authentication you just set up. Now, let's create an account and register on Binance.com with that new email address. We're not going to go into much detail here. There's another video showing you how to do that. Validate your Binance account by clicking on the link that you will receive in the inbox of your newly created email address. And lastly, let's also set up two-factor authentication for Binance. And again, I will link to the guide online. As a last layer of security, in Binance, you can configure a withdrawal whitelist to limit where withdrawals can be made to or sent to. This is your last layer of defense. So if at any time your account gets compromised and somebody gets access, they will not be able to withdraw funds to their own crypto address because you will have limited this with the whitelist. Now, needless to say, if all of your data is compromised, your email, your PC, and your Binance account, they can obviously alter this rule and disable it. A little bonus for the extra paranoid amongst us. If you want to be really, really safe and secure, you will take any old laptop or desktop PC you have lying around and use this exclusively for crypto trading. You will install a Linux distribution, such as Linux Mint or Ubuntu or Fedora or CentOS or anything you really like, and you will then configure a VPN such as private internet access. Because they have a native Debian-based app, they're actually quite easy to configure for Ubuntu and Linux Mint. In that app, you can then enable the VPN kill switch, so this laptop will only connect to the internet via the VPN at all times. You decide to use this laptop exclusively for your trading strategies and crypto exchange access. You don't use it to play games or any other stuff. And equally, you agree and commit to yourself that you will never access the exchanges through any other device. Set up a backup with one of the backup programs that ship with your Linux distribution, ideally to an external hard drive that you keep somewhere safe or protect with a password. You can then set up your email address and your Binance account with that new laptop, and you've got yourself a crypto trading workstation. Make sure that security updates are automatically installed at all times, usually with Linux distributions that is set up as default, but you may have to manually confirm the installation. And you can Google how that is done. It depends on each distribution and varies slightly. Additional considerations: you can use a hardware wallet to keep your cryptographic bank details safe. Ledger.com is one of the most popular. These are also referred to as hardware wallets. And while they don't exactly allow you to trade and work with Binance, they store your users' private keys, which are used to authorize transactions on the blockchain network. For example, if you buy and sell Bitcoin. And this is done through a secure hardware device. The main principle, as Ledger says on their website, is that it provides a full isolation between your private keys and your easy-to-hack computer or smartphone. Now, in the spirit of full transparency, I'd like to point out some advantages and disadvantages of that hardware wallet. Let's go and take a look at the advantages first. Clearly, the isolation from other devices makes this a very secure application. Military-grade encryption is a layer of protection that is very difficult to achieve on your computer. It's fashionable and trendy, and it's most useful for safekeeping funds over a longer period. So, for example, if you put this key into a safe. Now, some of the disadvantages of the hardware wallet, and why we personally don't use these, is that it depends on a single device, and that in itself presents a relatively high risk in case of loss, theft, or even hardware failure. It's quite inconvenient if you don't have this at hand at all times when wanting to make a transaction, and it's also quite expensive for what it actually does. Essentially, it's an elevated USB key with hardware encryption and some fancy buttons and screens. You could simply print your details on a piece of paper and store that in two locations, such as a bank vault and a locker drawer at home. That would be equally safe and free. So let's recap what we've discussed today. We've secured our computer environment before attempting to do anything else, updating our software and securing the PC. If we have a VPN, we've used it to obscure our access to the internet, which presents a simple yet additional layer of safety. We've set up a unique and ambiguous sounding email address, secured it with recovery options such as our cell phone and primary email address. We have configured two-factor authentication on our smartphone or tablet. We have registered a Binance account and equally set up two-factor authentication as well as a withdrawal whitelist. We have seen what an extra layer of security, call it paranoia, could look like. And we've briefly looked at hardware wallets and listed some pros and cons. This concludes our tutorial today. We hope you liked it. If you did, please subscribe. And with that, we wish you happy and secure trading. Thank you very much.